about James Lowe? He's returning to training. What level does he come in at, and what do you think he'll be fit for the match at the weekend?
Yeah, it's very hard to read with James. He's always full of life. He's never short of a word or two to say. So his body language is great, and that's all I can comment on really. We just have to wait and see how he gets on this week.
Very good. And the Irish players that come back in, obviously some of them wouldn't have seen any game time. So are they sent specifically back to play matches and they will come straight back in, or is there an integration for them as well?
I'm not sure with regards to. I'm not privy to those conversations really. Having been involved on the other side of the fence from a national point of view, you send players back in order for them to get game time, in order to strengthen their case for getting selection for the national team. So, I'm sure that'll be the case.
And just asking Max there as well about Leinster, usually up at the top of the URC in fairness, and this time there's one team ahead, but there has been two or three. What's that like overall for the team? Is that better in general for the general health of a team to sometimes be the hunter as opposed to the hunted?
I would say that Leinster are well used to having the tag of being favourites, and have had more than capable of living up to it really, so I don't think it just shows maybe the strength in the URC, because to be fair, we haven't deserved to win those games that we've lost. We haven't been good enough. So sometimes it's good to have that shot across the bows, that if you're not quite on top of your game, if you're just a little bit, 5% off, then it's going to cost you. So that was the warning shot after the Blues game, definitely. I thought we responded pretty well against Edinburgh. And then a lot of other things to take into consideration. We had a week break, we had a short week preparation to come into it. A lot of the players are down on game time, because of the games that we'd lost out on. So there are a lot of things to consider. But having said that, I thought we showed a great deal of character against Edinburgh. We dug on in there, frustrated with certain aspects, but got the bonus point in the bag in the end. And I think it'll be good preparation for this weekend. It's going to be a mighty task on the weekend. An Ospreys team full of confidence. Full of quality players as well, so we're going to have to step up again.
The last one from me. When you look at the Ospreys, is there a focus on how you set up the team to go about and beat them, or do you think that you've learned enough lessons from the couple of defeats and building on the Edinburgh victory that if you go out and play your game plan, that should be good enough?
No, I think we've got to respect what the Ospreys give as well, what they offer both in attack and defence. They've got a major catalyst in Rhys Webb at 9, both defensively and in attack. He's more than a handful really, just to name one individual. So, they've got some players that'll be keen to make an impression as well. I'd be surprised if they don't get some players back from the Welsh camp. Similarly to give them some minutes as well. So it's going to be a big challenge. They're pretty high up in the table in the URC. From a set piece point of view, they're scrummaging particularly well. They've got some experienced players in their ranks as well. And, we're going to have to be at our best, without doubt.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Hi, Robin. Will here from Virgin Media. Listen, just want to start and ask you about Max Deegan coming back in. Obviously, it's never a nice injury for any player to get. Has he come back and performed to the limits that you thought he would? Obviously, coming back from such a serious injury, and I suppose what does he add now that he's back? He's 25. He's kind of coming into those really prime years of his career.
Yeah, he's got a lot to offer. I don't think we've seen the best of Max yet, because of injuries, etc. So he's got to make the most of this window. Just said it in the earlier interview. We've got somebody like Dan Sheehan. That's all that he needed really, was a few more minutes playing time. And I've said to the forwards, you've got to make the most of this window. Your goal is at the end of this block, when the internationals come back. Depending on how selection goes, if you're not selected, you've got enough sort of currency under your belt, based on your performances, to go knock on Leo's door and give you a case as to why you're not being selected. So, you know, these opportunities are few and far between, but you've got to be able to take them. And Max, you know, without doubt, is he'll grow again. The more he plays, I think the better he will get. So he's just got to make the most of this opportunity now.
And for Leo and yourselves as coaching staff, can you talk about this window? Is this kind of quite a positive thing for you guys? Because I'm sure with the squad you have and so many players looking for game time, when others go off to play for the national country, it then gives you that, I suppose, reason to bring up lads and give them game time and then go, right, pretty much show me what you've got now.
Yeah, definitely. It's motivation for them, isn't it? And it's an exciting time for us as well, because it's great to see Joe McCarthy against the Blues. You know, great experience for him. You know, it lasted 80 minutes. You know, brilliant. Martin Maloney last week getting an opportunity. Alex Soroka coming off the bench. So they're your next stars coming through. So it's great to see him on the next level. You know, and playing at, because they put in the hours on the training field. You know, they're providing great opposition for the first of the first team, the internationals when they come back. So they're putting the hours in. This is their time, you know, on the plate really to show what they can do. So it's great to see them having the opportunity and taking it. You know, great experience for Joe against Cardiff. You know, great crowd, give him great vocal support. So to be in that environment, brilliant. And similarly for Martin Maloney, you know, stepping into the breach at the last minute, really. But I thought he equipped himself really well. And you're only going to get better, you know, the more that you dip these boys and into these high pressure sort of matches, these situations, see how they react, see how they learn from it. Because you're not going to know, you're not going to put any ceiling on how much growth the player's got, you know, until you see them, until you see how they react. Respond to disappointment, taking on the learnings, etc. You know, and these boys, they're keen, you know, because they've been training, like I said, against the sort of first team, not getting an opportunity. So, you know, hopefully that will motivate them and, you know, just drive them onwards.
You spoke about James Lowe being a live wire around the camp, and obviously it's good to have him back in and around involved. Are you hopeful that he can get back to full fitness and be involved as quickly as possible? Yeah,
you'd like to think so, you know. The motivation of getting back into a Leinster team, and then, you know, who knows if he proves his fitness, anything can happen, you know, with regards to Ireland as well. So yeah, the motivation is there for any player really, isn't it? And you know, especially someone who like James, who offers something different as well, you know. Be great to see him back.
And listen, finally for me then, is this kind of the time for when a lot of the hard work and learning is put in, obviously with those guys away, to kind of fill out the ranks that when we head into the business end of the season, which is pretty you know, fast approaching, it's not going to be long away before the Heineken Cup returns, etc. That the whole squad, you've got strength in depth to pick up from injuries or whatever occurs in the latter stages of these competitions.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the players have got to give the coaches confidence that should the opportunity come, that we can rely on them. So yeah, that's what this window is all about, you know. And it was a great start last Friday. We've got a big challenge coming up against the Ospreys. Then we're straight into the Lions, and you know, then we got Benetton. So yeah, it's going to be a good run of games for these boys. I think it's the way it's fallen, the opportunity is given the boys. You know, I think we're in a better place now to develop them and give them this opportunity than, you know, these games that wouldn't have been rescheduled because of the COVID. Nobody would be playing, and I think it'd be a very frustrating place.
Good stuff. Robin, thanks for that. Best of luck again.
Cheers, thank you.
Don Swift, if you have a question for Robin, please.
Okay, Robin, I've two questions. The first is the perennial question. You know, when Irish teams, national and provincial, like Leinster, come up against the bigger packs in France or Saracens or Toulouse, they can fall short. You know, so is there a solution from your point of view, or do you have the answer?
Well, you've got to be at your best, haven't you? You've always got to be at your best when you come up against these teams. They're the world-class teams. You can't afford to slip up. As we found with our own experience of going out to La Rochelle, etc., you've got to be at your best, really. You can't relax for 1 minute. And your game's got to be watertight, really, And unfortunately for Ireland, they just fell short in the end. I thought they showed a great amount of character to come back into the game. Can take a lot of positives, build on a lot of things, but ultimately it does go down as a loss. But they should take a lot of belief out of that performance, I think.
Indeed, and finally, when you come on as Waterboy for Leinster, is there much you can add to a game?
Not a lot of people can understand me talking, to be honest with you. So without the aid of an interpreter, not a lot. No, I'm there to provide water. A few words of encouragement, but if you've got too much to say, then you haven't done your work in the week, really. So I want to say a bit more on Waterboys, but I'm not going to. I'll get myself into trouble.
Okay, thanks.
Marcus, I might just ask one last.
Yeah, fire away, Michael. All good.
Yeah, just to get your opinion as an outsider, I want to ask you just about the Leinster dressing room and the makeup of it. Because there was an article in the paper a couple of days ago about the French national team, and they came from all over the world, and a lot of them were talking about if they weren't rugby players, they would probably be in a life of crime. And Keith Earls mentioned in his book about his worries for the youngsters coming through, that from the age of 14 or 15, they are just completely obsessed with rugby. But what stands out to you about the Leinster dressing room and the academy in comparison to what you would have grown up with or witnessed in other clubs?
I think the importance and the emphasis put on a career outside of rugby is the best that I've ever seen. I mean, it takes priority over training sessions. We're told as coaches that such and such can't attend training because he's got an exam, etc., etc. And there's no argument. So the amount of studying, the amount of exams, and the emphasis from a club point of view for these youngsters to keep on doing things outside of this environment here, this rugby environment, is very healthy. It's the healthiest that I've seen, really. You've got Josh Murphy, who's recently qualified as a doctor. Now, for a young man his age, I think he's only on 25, for him to have accomplished that alongside playing full-time professional as well. Brilliant, and that's just one example. I know Sean Cronin, he was having a couple of exams the other day. Somebody who's, I don't know what he's going to do in life after rugby, I got no idea, but it's good to see them working at it, so I don't think that's a concern here in Leinster.
And it stands out as different from your experience growing up, does it? Or your experience when you were as a player and your previous coaching roles, that Leinster, the way they go about business is different than what you'd previously experienced?
Yeah, my youthful looks obviously are misleading you, because I was of the age, I was only fully professional for 4 years. I was playing alongside working. So I was an amateur. I sort of crossed that amateur into professionalism, really. And I don't think anybody got it straight away with regards to what professionalism actually meant to rugby players. I think in the early days you were there from morning till night just because you felt it was a 9-to-5 job. Well, it's not really. So I think over the years people have become more aware of what it takes to be a professional, and you need that work-life balance. And I suppose it's lessons learned from football. Football is still a few years ahead of rugby, I think, with regards to the professionalism, etc. But I don't think there's any issues here in Leinster, definitely.